Welcome to The Democratic Voice, your community action program dedicated to bringing you the issues that impact America and concern Colorado. Brought to you every week at this time by the El Paso County Democratic Party, your voice in the future of Colorado Springs.
Good evening and welcome to The Democratic Voice. I'm Les Thompson, sitting in for Fred Hardy, who's out of town this week. This week we have another exciting week in politics. The Democratic Party is hard at work. The coordinated campaign has been making phone banks, calling infrequent voters, asking if they would like an absentee ballot. They've also been out walking precincts. The candidates are hard at work, out walking precincts, meeting the voters within their districts. We can use a lot of help here at the party. If you would like to volunteer to do phone banks or help candidates walk precincts, you can call us at 719-473-8713. or feel free to stop by the party headquarters at 25 North Iowa. Tonight we have with us the candidate who's running for House District 21. This is a House district that Keith King currently holds and represents the southwestern part of Colorado Springs and down to the Penrose area in Fremont County. Tonight, Tim Snowden's with us. Welcome, Tim.
Hi, Les. Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Good to have you here tonight.
Thanks.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Tim?
Well, I've been in Colorado since 1969. My family moved here, and I've been a long-term resident. I lived in a number of areas, including Canyon City, Colorado Springs, Pueblo. So I've been in the Tri-City area, so to speak, for quite some time. I'm an avid outdoorsman. I love to fly fish and am teaching my children to further that heritage and to continue on with that heritage. I have worked for federal and state agencies here in southeastern Colorado, and I've also been an educator at various times in my life.
Where have you talk about being an educator? Where have you taught?
Well, I started out actually working with the Youth Conservation Corps down around Lake Pueblo back in the late 70s, and worked my way up through that. I was an environmental educator with that program in the summers. I wound up going to University of Southern Colorado in Pueblo, and I obtained a master's degree there a few years ago in applied natural sciences, and taught a few college courses while I was there. And this last year, I have taught off and on with RE2 school system in Florence and Penrose.
Good. I understand you've worked a little bit for the U.S. Forest Service and some of the natural forests and all that. Tell us a little bit about your work experience and what you do.
Well, I worked in a number of various positions with the Forest Service over about a 15-year time period. I was most recently I worked as a wildlife biologist, and I was a firefighter for a number of years.
Wildfire firefighter?
You bet. Yeah, I fought wildfire across the West in just about every state in the West over a period of years. I've got a special interest in some of the big fires that are going in Colorado right now because of my background in that.
Okay. Why do you want to run for House District 21?
Well, there's a number of reasons, not the least of which is I feel that I would be a better representative to the majority of the people in the district. I'm familiar with a lot of the Fremont County issues, and I have been an advocate in Fremont County for such things as open space, preserving open space, and fighting to keep nuclear waste out of the Fremont County area. And in the Colorado Springs or El Paso County area, I think I could be a better representative because people will be able to find out just what my stance on a lot of the issues are. I was looking, a short time ago, I was looking through a website that is a bipartisan political website that tracks candidates and tracks their biography and also their stances on the issues. And I looked up Mr. King, I looked up my opponent. My opponent's, you guys are going to have to cut this. We'll have to look, I looked up my opponent's record, or tried to look up his record, on the issues, and the website had a simple message under my opponent's stances on the issues, saying that he would not, after a number of contacts, he would not send them his stance on the issues. And I thought that that was really a disservice to the public, because, you know, I truly believe in representative government, and all the public should be able to access their state legislators' stance on the issues. And in this case, that simply wasn't so. I couldn't find out where the state legislator stood on those issues. And so I thought, well, it's time for somebody, for House District 21 to get someone that was willing to stand up for what he believes in.
So, well, you know, if he doesn't put out there what his opinion or how he believes and what his stance is, then people don't know that and they can't hold him accountable to that. And so if he doesn't publicize what he believes in, he can pretty much do what he wants.
Precisely, and that was my concern too, is that if you don't, if he doesn't put his stance on the issues out there, you really don't know how he's voting.
Right.
And so you don't know whether he's representing the people of the House District or not.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about education. Where do you stand with education in Colorado?
Well, there's no doubt that Colorado's education system has a ways to go before it becomes the best in the nation. I believe in giving a quality education to every child in the state of Colorado. And I've worked in education. I know some of the problems that are faced by local educators. I am very much for smaller class size. I think that's a major issue that needs to be addressed. We need to fully fund our public school systems in every way we can so that we do provide the best education that Colorado can give.
Okay. I know one of your issues, you talked about being a firefighter and fighting the wildfires in the forest. And one of your issues is fire prevention. Would you like to talk a little bit about fire prevention?
Sure. About 5 years ago, I was a facilitator at Governor Roy Romer's conference on forest health. And out of some of those meetings, we developed some opportunities and needs that Colorado needed to address for safety and environmental issues. And one of the big ones was fire fuels buildup and fire risk close to or adjacent to communities that are in a forested environment. And this is especially true in the Front Range. As more and more development occurs adjacent to BLM lands or National Forest Service lands or even state lands that are forested, there's an increased risk of forest fire and fire danger. Well, back then, 5 years ago, the recommendations were that we needed to spend more time on that, what is termed as the urban wildland interface. And out of those discussions came monies from the federal government. I can't remember the exact figures, but it was close to $1.2, $1.6 billion nationwide that was allocated to do fire prevention close to, and a great portion of that was supposed to be spent close on these communities that are in need of that kind of fire protection. Those that are in a semi-rural setting that have fire danger and potential there. And the fires that we're having this year is just, a great example of what we predicted 5 years ago, and even before that. Well, the problem is up until now, there has been some activity as far as trying to do prevention and trying to help out those communities. But there's also not been a lot, there hasn't been as much as could have happened in the last couple of years. And I think with my background in firefighting and forest ecology, that sort of thing, I think I could be a real asset to the state legislator and to the local communities here in fighting to get good fire protection for the local communities.
So a lot of that's really just clearing the deadfall where those forests meets the urban area to protect those communities.
Right. Well, see, the State Forest Service can play a big role in, and it already has. I'm not trying to take anything away from the state foresters, but they have been going around doing a number of education services to local landowners that adjoin forested areas. And some of the things that need to be done are very simple activities, which is, like you say, clearing dead and down trees and debris from around next to communities. Clearing or cutting a number of trees within property so that you don't have trees that will create ladder fuels, small trees that will catch on fire that in the next case catch larger trees on fire, it spreads, that sort of thing. Getting rid of ladder fuels. Houses with wood shingles, replacing wood shingles instead of would help tremendously to keep a lot of houses from burning up. Simple little things like that need to happen in our local communities that will not only protect an individual's house but his neighbors as well.
Okay. As we here in Colorado, we're approaching a crisis situation with our health care. I know of lots of working families that they've suffered increases in their premiums or lost benefits. Well, what's your opinion on health care in Colorado, and what are some of the things that you would work for there?
Well, there's no doubt that we could do a lot better in Colorado for health care for the average citizen. I know from personal experience, I've seen health care premiums skyrocket over the last few years. We've got to fight for health care premiums that everybody can afford, and we've got to fight for health care that's accessible for everyone. In walking around the neighborhoods recently and talking with some of the folks, I've had a number of people convey to me that they're worried about not being able to pay medication expenses, especially retirees that have large medication expenses. They can't fit that into their budget any longer. And younger people that can't afford the kind of health care premiums that are being charged in this area.
Okay. And then a little bit on the environment. I know you've worked quite a bit for the U.S. Forest Service. You said you're a wildlife biologist and spent time fighting the fires. Tell us a little bit about the environment and your stance.
Well, I really believe that people in Colorado, the vast majority of people in Colorado moved here because of the environment. Let's face it. We don't have, we may not have a lot of the highest job security and some of those types of amenities that some other states have. However, we have a spectacular environment, and that's why so many people move to this state, and that's why tourism is such a big industry in this state. And it serves our own best interest to protect that environment. Now, there's no doubt that there's a balance between protecting the environment and the growth and keeping a solid, good economy in the state, and we have to do both. But there's also, we do have the ability to balance growth and business and the economy, and we have to do that balance. Too often it goes to one extreme or the other, and we can't live with that in Colorado. We've got to have a balance.
Exactly, a balance between our businesses, between where we live and where we go and play.
You bet, and I really think that that's possible. That, you know, that's a feasible goal, and we need to be targeting that kind of policy.
Okay. Well, tell us a little bit about your campaign and what you're doing right now, and how do we get hold of you? What do you need help with?
Well, right now I could use as many volunteers as I could, and donations, of course, for the campaign. I have my address. I don't have it right in front of me, and we'll have to get that in a moment.
We'll get that and get that
Right.
out.
But I have been out walking neighborhoods and speaking with local constituents, and that's been a very rewarding experience, actually, because I've been able to listen to a lot of the issues that people are concerned about, and I'm finding out that there are a lot of people out there that would like to see a change and feel a change is really needed within this community.
Well, that's good that the reception in those households has been real receptive to you. I know that district, it can be a winnable district, but it's going to take a lot of work to do that. One thing else we want to talk about was a little bit about family values, about families in Colorado. As a representative, what do you feel you could do to make Colorado a better place to live for the families that live here?
Well, I think that I have very strong ties with family values. I also believe that there's somewhat of a line we have to tread as far as government intervention into families and that sort of thing. I think families need to be supported in being able to keep the family unit in every way we possibly can, and that includes through taxes and schools, and however we can support families. I'm all for that. I have 2 children myself, a 14-year-old daughter, Audrey, and an 8-year-old son, Ryan, and we spend a tremendous amount of time together, and it's an enjoyable family.
Good. Well, it's real important, you know, because a lot of the issues we talked about, you know, the environment, education, health, you know, those are all family issues, because we got to have safe communities to live in.
It all ties together, you know. I mean, protecting the environment for the long term is family values for the future. Yeah. You know, if we protect the environment for our children's and grandchildren's sake over the long term, those are family values. If we keep a strong economy so that families don't have those hardships and pressures of money strain, and I know how that is, that helps keep families together and promotes family values. Those types of programs are ones that will support families in Colorado for the long term.
Good. Well, Tim, I want to thank you very much for being here this evening with us. You have your address for us, where we can reach you?
You bet, yeah. I'm really excited about this. There's a lot of folks that have been contributing and have been asking to volunteer for my campaign. And we can use people for all sorts of volunteers, whether it's calling other people, hosting a tea or a coffee at your house, and I can come and speak with you and your friends, having a yard sign in your yard, making a donation, and any small donation will help the cause. $10, $5, whatever you can afford will really help. We don't have big money contributors. We're grassroots people. If you would like to send in a contribution, send it to Snowden for House District 21. That's Snowden, and it's P.O. Box 38784, Colorado Springs, Colorado, 80937-8784. And again, any contributions would be helpful, and we're gaining momentum, and we'll gain more with your help.
Well, Tim, thank you very much for being here this
Thanks for
evening.
having me, Les.
Again, we need lots of help down here. If we're going to make a difference here in Colorado Springs, if we're going to make a difference here in El Paso County, if we're going to make a difference in House District 21, which covers 2 different counties, we need lots of help. We need volunteers to help walk those precincts, volunteers to help do phone banks. There's just a lot of things that people can do. Again, in order to contact the El Paso County Democratic Party, you can reach us at 719-473-8713, or you can come by 25 North Iowa, Colorado Springs. And you can also visit us on the web at www.peakdems.org. That's PEAKDEMS.org. Thank you and have a good evening.